for the second time this year when the total Swartland Rally came to town. The penultimate round of the Sasol South African Rally Championship started and finished at Cape Town's Killarney Racing Circuit, with 10 stages offering the competing crews a total special distance of 197 kilometers. Conditions were expected to be smooth and fast, although heavy rain had compromised the going in some areas. A total of 42 entries would ensure plenty of close, high-speed rally action.
While two of the class winners had already been decided, the overall championship was poised on a knife's edge, with all the main protagonists still in the title hunt. Going into the total Swartland Rally, Jürgen Fecken and Pierre Aries enjoyed a slim lead of only 1 point in their S2000 BP Volkswagen Polo, ahead of teammates and defending champions Enzo Kuhn and Guy Hodgson. Tying for third place were the ace pairing of Serge Damso and Robert Paisley in their Castrol Toyota Run-X, and the third BP VW Racing Polo in the hands of Jan Habik and Douglas Judd. In Class N4, for near-standard production cars, all eyes would be on the Konica Minolta Subaru WRX STI of Charles Wilkin and Greg Godrich. After 2 big crashes, the car had finally been returned to its full specification, and Wilkin was expected to be quick. However, protecting their championship lead would be Visser Duplessis and Dave Lefkowitz in their Pertec Creepy Crawly Subaru STI, while defending N4 champions Nicholas Ryan and Schalk van Heerden were also getting to grips with their latest spec Bosel Johnny's Way Subaru STI. Fernando Reuter and Gerard Snyman were equally intent on a strong finish in their team total Mitsubishi Lancer Evo after a topsy-turvy season, while Paul Pfeiffer and Cindy Harding would be more than quick enough to upset the N4 apple carts.
True to its title, the event kicked off in the wheat fields of the Swartland, where the first 2 stages run near the hamlet of Mariarsburg. The conditions here are generally smooth and fast, although 6 weeks of heavy rain had resulted in some ruts and road damage. This stage included a tight farmyard section, which is always a spectator favourite. First on the road were Kuhn and Hodgson, setting a blistering pace in the BP Volkswagen Racing Polo. Clearly intent on leading from the front, the duo set the fastest time, but only by a second from an equally determined Damso and Paisley. Gemmell and Marsh were a further 2 seconds back in the second Castrol Toyota Run-X. Gemmell's maiden victory was this very event in 2001, and he was keen to repeat that feat. JP Damso is following in his father's rallying footsteps, although he's found the move to S2000 a challenge. He was a second behind Gemmell. Fecken let it all hang out, but perhaps he was trying a little too hard. 5th place was the result. Let's join team totals Etienne Lawrence and Andre Vermeulen on the stage.
Caution, bump turn open left 4 beforehand. Open long right 9 over bumps in narrow. Right. Turn left 7 over gate. 200 downhill. Dip left 2 over gate, crest.
Handling problems meant Lawrence trailed Kuhn by 9 seconds here. In the production car class, Vulcan and Godrich made the early running. They were fastest in N4 and 2 seconds quicker than Habik and Judd, also struggling with suspension settings.
So after the first 13-kilometre stage, a mere 15 seconds covered the first 8 cars, while the spread between the top 6 S2000 teams was only 9 seconds. The stage surface was taking a pounding under the S2000 onslaught, with ruts already starting to appear. In Class A7, Theuns Hubert and Llewellyn Fleuri were pressing on in their Salem Brokers VW Polo. They were third in class, trailing the team total Run-X of Chris de Wit and Dean Redlinghuis. But it was Mark Cronje and Chris Birkin who continued their A7 domination with the fastest A7 stage time. Ryan, who hasn't always been on top form this year, was looking more confident in the Cape. His time was only a second off the Guma S2000 Polo of the young John Williams and father Doug. Du Plessis shared the second fastest N4 time with Fernando Reuter. The Spaniard was struggling to find his rhythm in the Team Total Lancer Evo. But quickest N4 on the event opener were Paul Pfeiffer and Cindy Harding, looking very committed. Even so, the times were close. Only 3 seconds covered the top 4 N4 cars.
Stage 2 was the second of the day's 2 Swartland gravel stages, with a couple of water splashes and tight sections between the fast and furious parts to keep the crews on their toes. With more than 30 kilometers to cover and the rally still in its infancy, it was the first real test of man and machine. Despite the rain in the weeks preceding the event, conditions were generally good, with many of the stage roads smooth and very, very fast. The crews were often hitting the limiter in top gear, indicating speeds in the region of 200 kilometers an hour. Vulcan was ominously smooth, if not quite as aggressive as on previous events. JP Damso looked quicker than his 7th best S2000 time suggested. Habik's Polo didn't like the water. A misfire cost him about 25 seconds. That helped Lawrence up to 5th best stage time. Second hit the splash with a vengeance, but got away cleanly. Gemmell was piloting the Castrol Ranix with great gusto, proving that he's finally found his S2000 feet. But he couldn't match Serge Damso, who took the stage win if only by a second. It meant that Enzo and Serge were not tied for the lead after 2 stages. The A7 battle behind Cronje was starting to look intriguing. The aging Sasol Golf of Barry Grobler and Grant Martin already looked a little worse for wear and was fighting it out with the Team Total Ranix of Chris de Wit.
In N4, Lola and Megan Verlaque were driving an older Subaru, having sold their Africa Rally Championship car. They trailed Team Total teammate Reuter's Lancer Evo by 47 seconds on this stage. Cronje continued his giant killing ways, beating Reuter by a second in his A7 Castrol Ranix. He also came within 13 seconds of the Williams S2000 Polo. Amazingly, Williams and the next 3 cars finished with exactly the same time. Visser Du Plessis' main concern here was to retain his N4 championship lead. Ryan's was to shrink that advantage. A new entrant in the A7 fray was Gugu Zulu, who became the first black driver to win a national rally title by wrapping up Class A5 at the Osram Rally. He was still getting used to his new BP Polo.
You know, I think at this moment in time, I'm not really concentrating 100%. I'm just still smiling with excitement of just the, realization that I'm actually driving an A7 car. It's a thrill. It takes a little bit of getting used to in terms of the gearing and so on. This one, it's actually got a sequential box and a lovely handbrake lever, which is nice and upright. And that has to, obviously, it's a major change. I don't have to use the clutch as much as I used to with my other car. And yeah, the speed is there, but that's a bit relative, really. I mean, it's just a quick acceleration. And it's just a matter of getting used to the gearing and the braking marks, as I said.
Jean and Hodgson were now tying with Serge and Paisley for the lead with 3 Mickey Mouse stages to go. Habik's woes saw him languishing in 7th, with Vulcan fastest of the N4s. A large crowd had gathered at the Killarney racetrack for the first of the 3 tar stages. Drivers with track experience like Vulcan relished the challenge, while other crews were less enthusiastic. Visser Du Plessis was a case in point. He was fortunate to recover from this huge spin.
I thought, well, let's improve. When we dropped the car without checking the toe-ins and stuff, and the front wheels and back wheels went 3 millimeters toe-in. And believe it or not, in 2 stages I lost it 3 times, going in a spin and doing 170 k's an hour once. But the car was quite uncontrollable. It was actually good luck that we're still here today.
Vulcan and Raider were at its hammer and tongs, but Du Plessis' Subaru continued its wayward antics. With only 9 seconds separating the top 8, there was little to choose between the front runners. Gemmell was the fastest man on the day, with Surge making it a 1-2 for Toyota. But most of the S2000s were right on the pace, sliding their steeds around Killarney in spectacular fashion. Johnny Gemmell was in high spirits.
The first stage was terribly slippery, very slippery. Stage 2 was not bad, bit better, and now we've just done some tarmac. It's quite good. We just took this one. So we're 3 overall behind Enzo and 5 behind Surge.
Was also hotting up, albeit behind the flying Cronier. Gugu made the most of his track experience to outpace Chris DeWitt, while local boy Mike Nathan turned up the wick in the old ex-Lawrence Corolla to put all but Cronier to shame, and in spectacular fashion. And Harding were next up in the stage results. They couldn't match the pace of Ryan, and nudging the barrier didn't help. A flying Cronier pipped them both. In fact, the ex-karting world champ was only 2 seconds off the time of Williams in the much faster S2000. Part of the attraction of these tar-based specials are the spills, the spins and the near misses. Regional racer Jean Duplessis was one of the favourites. Buckus misjudged this corner under pressure from Vusi Mbanga, with shattering results for both crews. The 2 A5 participants pulled off the track to lick their wounds, while the marshals cleaned up the track. The top 3 was still split by mere seconds after stage 3, with the S2000 cars clearly dominating proceedings. In N4, Wilkin and Godrich remained the team to beat. This coverage of the Total Swartland Rally is brought to you by